You're here because you want an easy weekday meal to feed the family. Let's start by putting some oil in a pan and getting some water onto the boil. I always salt my pasta water. I just think it gives the pasta a much nicer taste. And in goes the macaroni. More is more when it comes to pasta servings. Don't believe the lies you read on the back of the packet. Quick stir so it doesn't stick, and onto the choppity chopping. We've got our leek here, chopping off the end. We're going to start slicing into about 1 centimetre slices. It's super rough, don't worry, you don't need to get a ruler out. Scoop all that up and chuck it into the pan with the oil. Next, we've got our mushrooms. I'm not precious about which mushrooms you choose, any that you like the taste of. And then chop, rough chop again. Scoop and chuck into the pan with the leeks and the oil. Next on the chopping board, we've got our bacon. Of course, mine isn't real bacon, it's vegan, vegetarian bacon, but you can absolutely make this recipe with your standard back bacon. I would recommend a smoked bacon for this particular recipe. And again, chopping roughly and putting into the pan with the oil, leeks and mushrooms. That can now go on to a medium to high heat. And we're going to get to work making our white sauce. We're going to take 50 grams of butter. I've got the Flora plant butter salted variety here, but you can use standard butter. Again, I would recommend the salted version. And we're going to gently melt this on a lowish heat. We don't want anything too crazy. We don't want bubbles or boiling our butter. We don't want it to go brown at all. So gently melting in the pan. As you can see, I get super impatient and start sloshing around the pan, trying to find the warmest spots to melt it faster. But patience is key here, guys. We're going to then add in 50 grams of plain flour. This can be swapped out for gluten-free flour as well. And we're going to add that into the butter and then give that a stir. We want to cook this together for around 1 minute. It should look a bit like a paste and it should golden in colour. But again, nothing too crazy. We don't want that butter to burn or the flour to burn either. Probably worth noting here that I am giving everything a good stir to make sure that it doesn't stick to the bottom of the pans. And we want to make sure that our bacon, leek, mushroom combo isn't on too much of a high heat. Of course, we don't want the bottom burning at all. And it's quite important that I note here that I am using the same spoon for all 3 pans. If you are using real meat bacon, I wouldn't recommend this, and I would definitely get out a separate spoon for that particular pan. Okay, back to the white sauce, and you can see here I've been adding in really small amounts of milk. I'm going to need around 500 mils of milk for this particular white sauce recipe. And when I first started making white sauce, I would always measure out my ingredients, but now I can just eyeball it, and that is absolutely the best way for me to do it. I just find it so much easier. So the key here is adding in your milk in little drips and drabs. We don't want to add too much milk in, otherwise it will be lumpy. So little drips and drabs, continue to stir, and eventually you're going to end up with a smooth and silky fluid sauce. And we want to cook that again for around 5 minutes, and then it will thicken up naturally on its own. So we want that to be on quite a low heat. We don't want it to be boiling at all. No big bubbles, no furious boiling. It's going to gently simmer like a witch's cauldron. We might get the occasional big bubble bubbling up, but we don't want loads and loads of bubbles furiously bubbling away. And again, while that's cooking, I'm just going to give everything a quick stir, making sure that it's not sticking to the bottom of the pans, making sure that the macaroni isn't sticking together either. Next, we're going to season our white sauce with a generous helping of salt and pepper. Now, it's worth noting here that I have mine on way too high here, so I did turn it down and give it a good stir after I noticed it was bubbling too much. Next, I'm going to add my secret ingredient, which is a fantastic way to season this dish. It is garlic granules, and it's no more than 1/4 to 1/2 teaspoon, and it just gives this dish a little bit extra flavouring. So all in all, we should be cooking for around 10 to 15 minutes. or the time it takes to cook the macaroni. I always try to get that on first and get everything else cooked during that cooking time, and it just keeps it really quick and easy for a midweek dinner. Now, I'd love to know more about you guys and what you love to cook. If you have any other easy weekday recipes, I'd love to hear about them in the comments. I am new to YouTube, so I would love your comments. If you want to like the video, if you've enjoyed it so far, and of course, I'd really love it if you consider to subscribe as well. That would absolutely make my day. We are done. So I always add everything into the bacon, leek and mushroom pan, and that way we can really absorb all of those flavours that have been cooking in the bottom. So strain the pasta, add that into the pan, and then add the white sauce and give everything a really good stir together. I love to serve this one on the table straight from the pan. So putting down either a heat proof mat or a chopping board and then putting it on the table, and everyone can just dig in from there. It's great served with some crusty bread or some garlic bread, or my personal favourite at the moment, which is tender stem broccoli. It adds that pop of green. Getting in another veggie is always a plus. So I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope it's given you a little bit of inspiration. And if you do make it and enjoy it, I'd love to hear from you. And if you've made it this far, thank you so much. Here's a dose of reality. Me cleaning up the kitchen after moving it all around for this video. Thank you so much. I hope to see you in the next one. Bye for now.